This is how an engineer like me looks at heart and blood health issues. After 6 years of chasing the elusive 4-year degree in mechanical engineering, my brain is just wired now to try to look at things logically and make sense of them. Now, it's very easy when you get, we'll call it bad news from a doctor, to get distracted by what does this mean for me or for my loved one that's having this issue, and it can be confusing because the body is full of these systems that have things happening, and it's just sometimes for a lot of us, especially as engineer types, it's harder to visualize how these systems actually work inside of us. But like any problem, the more you can boil it down to facts, data, logical thinking, the easier it is to be objective about it and try to analyze it in a way that makes more sense. In basic terms, I don't have enough oxygen in my system to do what the body wants to do. This means I struggle to catch my breath during activity, which can be light walks, trying to walk across a parking lot up to the gym. It can be laying in bed trying to fall asleep. It can be anything at this point, and I don't even attempt more high intensity exercise like I used to. Now, these things I notice day to day because I'm doing them, and in the moment I can feel, even talking, a shortness of breath. However, there are things happening internally that are also bad that I may not notice day to day, but my organs inside are also being deprived of the oxygen that they need, and there's more damage happening. And that's why my LDH or whatever numbers are about 10 times what they should be, because there's this damage inside. So what factors are contributing to this shortness of breath? Well, there's several things with me. For one, I have congestive heart failure. The heart is just not doing a good enough job of getting the blood out there. It also has leaks in the valves. I have bradycardia, which is a low heart rate, and I have anemia. So let's put on our engineered glasses and start thinking about it like an engineer would. Let's imagine a factory. And in this factory, we have a conveyor belt. So let's just draw a big old conveyor belt here. And let's say that as this thing goes around, it's delivering bolts to the rest of the factory, right? So you can fit, let's say, 50 bolts per belt. In other words, if you look at the whole area of the belt, that's 50 bolts, that's our concentration. And the speed of it, let's say, is 2 revolutions per hour. So the flow will be, or delivery is going to be 2 revolutions per hour. And if we take those times each other, we get 2 revs times 50 bolts equals 100 bolts per hour to the factory. And let's say along the way there are different stations where people are using these bolts to do different things, and that's going to be our 100% capacity. So simple enough concept to understand from a production standpoint. Now if suddenly the factory is running out of bolts, let's say, hey, somebody down here is screaming, I don't have enough bolts. Well, what could be wrong? There's a couple things that could be happening. For one thing, perhaps you're not getting a full 50 bolts on the belt. Maybe you're only getting 40. So that would be a problem. So let's say this goes down to 40. And that would mean that you're now only getting 80% of the concentration you should have. Another thing that could happen is maybe your speed or your delivery is down to 1.5, and that would mean that you're only getting 75% of your delivery. And if you have both of these happening, then you take those two together, and that would mean that you're now only getting 60% of your desired full production 100 volts an hour. Well, let's use the same logic and look at what's going on with my heart. My heart is basically a pump, right? So it's pump and it's got a flow, and that flow is measured with what we call an ejection fraction. And that basically signifies how efficient or effective it is at getting the blood out. Now, when it comes to the blood, you have iron, which the body uses to make red blood cells, and then it makes hemoglobin, which attaches to the red blood cells, and that is what's used to carry oxygen. Now, healthy levels for an ejection fraction is 55 to 70%, or let's call that 62.5% is 100% capacity, right? So that's equivalent to getting your 2 revolutions an hour. That's the 100%. My last echo showed that I was at a whopping 32.5%. So that means that I am only at 52% of full production as opposed to the 75% in our example up here. With hemoglobin, you want to be, for a male, between 14 and 18 for hemoglobin numbers, and my last test showed 11.9, which means I am only at 74% of what I should be, or that full production 50 volts an hour. If you take those two together, that means that I am only 39% of full production. That's a big drop. That's not even half of what ideally my body would have for oxygen delivery throughout the system. Now, we know that we'll have different capacity needs. We don't always need the 100 volts an hour on this line. Some days this guy's sick or that station needs maintenance. Maybe at night you've got a skeleton crew and you only have one guy using bolts, so that changes. Same thing for the human body. You always need oxygen, the basics, going through to keep your stuff alive. But as far as activity goes, that's where it changes. If I were to even attempt to go out to Colorado and hike up some mountain at 12,000 feet, there's just no way. There's no way that this little 39% of oxygen is going to be enough to do that. It just wouldn't happen. So I'm long past that. Now, when I do a walk, if I try to climb stairs, if I'm, talking like this, whatever it is, I might be struggling, but I'm able to do it, but I know that I'm constrained. But when I have my skeleton crew, like when I'm sitting on the couch watching a movie, well, then I don't generally notice it as much. Now, it can fluctuate. It can get a lot worse if I've ate a meal, if I haven't been sleeping as well, whatever it is. So the capacity can change with the body as much as the conveyor belt, and in both cases, you only notice it, you notice it the most the more activity you have. So if you're at 100% demand where you need the 100 volts and you're only at 60%, you're going to notice it more than if you just have one guy using volts. Same with the body. If I even tried to do something 100% demand that the body should, it'd collapse. It wouldn't do it. But if I'm just sitting on a couch, then it's more tolerable. Now, another thing I have working against me is I have bradycardia. Bradycardia is just a big word for a low heart rate. So normally, people's body should be around, let's say, 60 beats per minute at rest. Some people that are very conditioned athletes can be quite a bit lower than that at rest, but that's kind of a general target. So let's say that I'm at 60 while I'm sitting on the couch resting, and then it goes up when activity needs it. So you're like speeding up the conveyor belt type thing because the concentration is so low. But at night, I can get down to like 33 beats per minute, which is really low, right? And that's when sleeping. And I see this on my watch the next morning if I'm watching it. And I can see that dropping significantly. So when my heart is now dropped to about half the speed of that, that logically would say that I've gone from 39% capacity down to about 20% capacity, which is really horrible. And that's why my organs, even if I am sleeping well, they're just not repairing like they need to be because they don't get enough oxygen. And that's so critical for your body's health and internal and everything else. So what do these numbers all mean? What do they tell us? What does that do for us? The practical side of it, or the output of the oxygen levels, can be measured with the little oxygen sensor that whenever I go into a doctor's office, they measure your blood pressure and then they measure your oxygen and your temp. I'm usually sitting there calm, trying to get low blood pressure reading at the time. So I'm not doing anything physical. So the oxygen sensor usually says maybe 95, 6, whatever, 7 even, which isn't fabulous, but it's not terrible. However, sometimes at night, I've seen my watch say that my oxygen levels got down to barely over 80%. Now, I don't know how accurate these fit watches always are, especially while you're sleeping, but it's the only data point I have. I can say that I have woken up plenty of times in the middle of the night gasping for air. So there is definitely an effect of that heart rate getting low enough where I feel like I can't breathe and I have to wake up out of that sleep and gasp trying to catch my breath. But it is pretty obvious that if I'm only churning out about 39% of the oxygen my body really needs for full capacity, that there's no way I can do full capacity activity, and I struggle with even half capacity activity. And that makes sense. Think about if you got in your car, you stood on the gas, put it to the floor, but your fuel pump was only delivering 39% of the fuel that the engine needed. Is it gonna run well? Hell no, it's not. It's gonna sputter and choke, and it's probably gonna die. Not much different here. So the numbers make sense as far as logic of thinking through how bad they are numerically, how bad the performance level is as far as activities, what I'm able to do. It all kind of makes sense for a gut check. What the numbers don't do is necessarily tell us how to fix it, but they are indicators that can tell us maybe manage expectations a little bit. So let's look back at a couple years ago when they did the last paravalvular leak seals. It put my ejection fraction up to like, I believe it was like 42.5%. So let's say in this next procedure at the end of June, they plug those leaks and I'm actually able to get up to 42.5 again. And I don't know this yet. pontificating if I look back at the old data. So let's say I did get up to 42.5% after this next procedure. That would change my delivery from a 52% to a 68%, which is pretty decent, and it would change my overall from a 39 to a 51%. And that could be a pretty big improvement. Now, when they did this procedure last time, I never really did feel better because when they did this, even though the ejection fraction improved, I never felt better because with everything else that happened, I ended up anemic, and this hemoglobin went down so bad that I never actually got any benefit. So a lot of this is kind of assuming all else equal, but will it be? We don't know because we haven't had the procedure. We don't even know if we're going to get the 42.5. Now, as far as the hemoglobin goes, even though I was good all the time up till that procedure 2 years ago, I've been pretty much really bad with it ever since. In fact, I was actually at 13 a while back. This would be probably like 6 months ago, let's call it, or whatever it was, which was better than the 11.9. The bad news of this is that it seems to have gotten peaked and now it's coming back down, which is not good. And that's probably a result of everything else failing inside. But let's say by some miracle, I was able to get this back up to 13. Well, if I did that, the 13 would drive the 74% up to an 81%. And if I had both of these going, in other words, I got the plugs and this happening, that would drive my overall to as high as 55%. So we do see that the bigger effect, you know, it's a bigger jump to go from 52 to 68 than it is 74 to 81. Now, if I could get this in the healthy 14 to 18 range, that would be a big deal. I just don't expect that's ever going to happen because I've been doing these iron infusions every 3 months for the last 2 years, and I'm now going back down. So I don't have high hopes for this, but perhaps putting those plugs in might make a little bit of difference here. Again, it's all still poor. It's not going to have me climbing Mount Everest by any stretch of the imagination. But if it allowed me to park at the gym and walk into the gym and actually walk up the flight of stairs to the weight floor and be able to do basic exercise and have a conversation without running out of breath and sleep at night by not having to lay there and gasp for breath, those are all big deals. It doesn't mean I'm on easy street, but they would be at least a huge improvement in the quality of life if we could get up to that level. If you haven't done so, please click the link below to subscribe, click the little bell for notifications, and let's live for today.